عليكم magacay waa Aiki Xasan waxaan aad ugu faraxsanahay maanta walaalkeen Omar Fateh inuu noqon doono next mayor of Minneapolis waa historic waaye waxaan rajaynayaa Soomaalida degan Minneapolis inay soo baxaan u codeeyaan
investing in increasing affordable housing and not gentrifying our neighborhoods. These are all things that are causing harm to our community because of this idea that there isn't money, when in reality we do have this money to spend on this. It's just that we're choosing not to. It's not a value of ours. So right now we're blessed to have 3 Somali elected officials at the Capitol. Me, Sister Holden Hassan, who's in the State House, and Brother Mahmoud Noor. And we work very closely together. And we carry each other's bills. So the way it works is, if there's a bill in the House, it needs an identical bill to be carried in the Senate for it to be negotiated and to pass in the committees, and then go on for the floor session, and then go on to the governor's signature. So we're able to pass our bills back and forth that'll help benefit our communities.
What's going on, guys? So recently, this guy, Omar Mahmoud Fateh, has been causing a little bit of a stir on the app formerly known as Twitter. He is a state senator in Minnesota, and I believe is currently the Democratic mayoral candidate for Minneapolis, Minnesota. I personally don't think if he becomes mayor of Minneapolis that this will be much of an accomplishment, which is kind of what set people off. That now, because he's the candidate, he has a shot at becoming mayor. That was kind of what's boosted his recognition in recent days. But seeing as Ilhan Omar is already a House member from Minnesota, that's like a much higher bar. So, I mean, this is kind of highlighting the issue, but I don't think this guy in particular is a real power player, if you know what I mean. I don't think he in particular is all that significant, but I think his candidacy acts as a sort of touchstone for broader issues. I'll say that. It touches on anxieties that a lot of people have about new Americans. A commenter of mine recently drew a comparison between Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic candidate for the mayor of New York, and Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London. And actually, I have enough material to make a second Zohran Mamdani video at this point, which I plan to do sooner or later when I get around to it. But I figured I'd focus on Omar Fateh. I think he deserves a little bit more attention because I do think there is a significance to this. I do think there is a broader significance to this, which is worth discussing. Even if him becoming candidate for mayor in Minneapolis isn't necessarily that revolutionary, I still think the fact that he, as a Somali American running, does signify something for broader American politics, and he is a harbinger of a new paradigm in a sense. Now, hear me out. What we've seen recently with Omar Fateh and Zohran Mamdani is that these sort of ethnic enclaves of newer Americans, shall we say, can produce hyper-radical left-wing grievance politics in perpetuity at the expense of the center. Because note, in New York, I think Eric Adams is actually running as a Republican now. And, of course, Zohran Mamdani beat out Chris Cuomo, as I think it was, the more centrist establishment Democrat candidate. These enclaves, therefore, aren't responsive to wider currents in the Democrat Party. So they're resistant to certain trends that, if perhaps these groups were smaller or more beholden to the Democratic establishment, would make achieving the goals of the rest of the Democratic Party more easy. But they are kind of a thorn in their side. So basically, the left, progressives, liberals have imported certain groups of people who they thought they could use as vote banks, if you will, just endlessly getting large amounts of votes from these particular communities. And now we've come to a point where there are certain wedge issues that are beginning to test the fidelity of the Democratic coalition. now these enclaves, these groups that they've invited into America have either agendas that are inconveniently far left of the Democratic Party, at least in the public sense, or are unwilling to cooperate with the Democratic Party because they won't meet certain specific needs, like, being harsher on Israel for tensions in Gaza right now, if you get what I'm saying. But, I think it would be useful if we took a closer look at Omar Fateh and his politics, his particular politics.
Hello everyone, Senator Omar Fateh here, candidate for Mayor of Minneapolis. We are here at the Target Center today for the DFL endorsement for the Board of Estimate and Taxation, park boards, as well as the mayoral race. Really excited. We're talking to a lot of great delegates today about why we're running. I'm excited to talk about our vision for a city that actually provides meaningful public safety for everybody, no longer polluting our underrepresented communities, making sure everyone has access to clean air and clean water, fully supporting our public schools, and making sure everyone has a safe and stable housing. Really honored to be here today, and I'm hoping to earn your trust and your support. And myself, hopefully becoming a first-time father in a few weeks, I want to have a city that I could raise my son in, and that all of us can raise our families in. So hope to earn your support, and thank you all so much.
Oh yeah, and by a safer city, he means redirecting like half of all police calls to non-police responses. In 2021, he wanted to replace the Minneapolis Police Department with a public safety department. And also, he wants to block the police from working with immigration enforcement. So he's one of those lunatic abolish the police guys, which is cropping up as a policy. I want to do a whole video on abolishing the police. I probably will in the future. I had a whole script written out. I have relatives that are like unironically interested in like abolishing the police. It is the most cynical, ridiculous policy that you could ever imagine. But among progressive millennials like these guys are, Omar Fateh is like 35, and I think Zoran Mamdani is maybe only 1 or 2 years older. This is like a real position. This is like a legitimate policy position, which is crazy. I'm sure it's also worth pointing out, but Omar Mahmoud Fateh has also been involved in a number of minor, I guess you could call it corruption scandals. I say minor because none of the money involved was over $1 million, or I think even over $100,000. So, I mean, it's corruption. Corruption's corruption, but it's not. Again, kind of like I was saying earlier, this guy is kind of big fish in a small pond, if even that. Like, he's more symptomatic of a larger problem than he is a problem in and of itself. But anyway, look.
The second complaint was that Fateh didn't respond when his brother-in-law, Musa Muhammad, was convicted of lying to a federal grand jury about ballots he turned in on behalf of other voters in 2020 without their permission.
So based on the advice of my lawyer, I'm again going to invoke my Fifth Amendment right and decline to answer.
Dawson Kimian was Fateh's campaign manager, but took the Fifth Amendment repeatedly when asked about the campaign. Eventually, the panel dropped the second complaint, finding no evidence that Fateh knew about the ballot situation.
And of course, he's been embroiled in that typical Democratic Party machine politics uh, the ballot box stuffing type of behavior. That too. I mean, not very surprising. The area he's in is already so corrupt, anyways. Before the whole uh, radical democratic socialist Somali thing even became an angle, that this kind of doesn't really matter all that much, but still, worth noting. Worth noting.
Heard them being called terrorists. We heard them being called drug dealers. We heard a lot of insults. We heard that they're a threat to our national security. And that's a flat-out lie. You want to know who the real threat is, Madam President? I'll give you a hint. They don't look like our chief author. They don't look like the folks up in the gallery. They don't look like the folks on the rotunda. They look like many of the members that sit in the front. And you don't have to take my word for it. According to DHS, Madam President, the greatest domestic threat facing the United States comes from, quote, racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, specifically those who advocate for the superiority of the white race, not our immigrants. We are safer and we're better off because of them.
Is it weird for anyone else to see like a full politician read off of their phone, off of what's probably their notes app? Does that feel strange for anyone else? It feels strange for me. I'm not going to enjoy the future if we have to look forward to more of this. Like, politicians, you should just be able to not. They didn't even have papers with them. They definitely weren't reading off their phones. Anyway, he said some really stupid stuff there, obviously. And it's more typical antagonization of WASPs and white ethnics, old American stock, which is, common to the left, but it's only going to be carried forward by people like this guy and Zohran Mamdani, who basically explicitly said he wanted to tax white neighborhoods for the purpose of wealth redistribution. But the implications of this attitude are that, unlike the more, I guess you could say, racially flexible establishment Dems who are, because again, Kamala is one of these establishment Dems, even though she's super woke at the same time. She was very hard on crime at one point, and establishment Dems do have that past. The Clintons have that past. But these people who are promoted by these minority groups in urban areas, these ethnic enclaves, are like true believers, if you will. They are not as flexible as establishment Dems. They're not as nimble, I guess you could say, in terms of justifying their policies. They are dyed-in-the-wool believers, and if they think that prisons should be abolished, they think that prisons should be abolished, and they're going to work towards this goal much more earnestly than your average corporate Democrat would. Now, Zohran Mamdani himself has kind of walked back some of his more radical progressive policies, but even then, with him, everyone can kind of see it, and I suspect with Omar Fateh as well, you're going to have a lot more of these young millennial foreign politician type guys cropping up and just being a bit unapologetic about how they want to reform society and how quickly they feel society should be reformed. And this will create a tension because a lot of young people on the left are tired, are fed up, are naturally taught by left-wing institutions to mistrust authority and agitate for change. So these people have the chance to create some real tension and fissures within the left.
We should make dua for him and pray for him. I understand that our Somali communities are all connected to each other here in Minnesota and back home, and I ask for your support. There's always been a link between our community here as well as back home. And I'm running to bridge that gap and unite all of us and represent all of us, because when we succeed here, we succeed everywhere. And I'm hoping to do that just like Abdrazak, inshallah.
Inshallah indeed, Omar. Inshallah indeed. We'll see how this plays out for you the rest of this century. I personally know plenty of people who are not interested in replacing their local police department with a public safety department. But we'll see how this all turns out. Anyways, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give it a like, share, subscribe. If you haven't already, consider subbing to me on Patreon to support this channel. This channel is entirely funded by you. I hope you're enjoying your day. I'm enjoying my Sunday, personally. And Red Channels will catch you in the next one.